first question is, I know it's the final leg of the Beethoven's Last Night tour. What kind of reaction have you had from audiences to the show?
Oh, yeah. Actually, great question. The reaction has been, better than we could have anticipated, especially since TSO is multitasking at this point. I mean, the music industry, I don't know, is basically, the internet has changed it.
Oh, yeah.
When I started in, the mid-'70s, there was over 45 major labels, each worth a ton of money, all combined worth way over $1 trillion, releasing between 20 and 30,000 albums a year. By 2009, that 45 had turned to 4.
Wow.
Capitol Virgin EMI went bankrupt with the Beatles catalog. I'm 23. And if they're releasing, even 3,000 albums a year now, I'm shocked, which basically means there's, 27,000 bands that normally would have had an album out that don't. We've basically, just been trying to anticipate and stay ahead of these moves. We've been just really, really lucky. And it's, boy, you just asked a loaded question like, how do you solve cold fusion? Last year, 2011, we toured Europe for the first time, and business was, a gazillion times better than we anticipated. Just because America, every city has like 12 radio stations. Some countries in Europe only have one, and they only have rock like for 1 hour a week, on a Saturday night, which is basically how you break, bands in North America.
Right.
But business was so great in Europe. We started in Switzerland and hit, Belgium, Germany, Austria, Denmark, Holland, Great Britain, and so many shows were sold out that we weren't expecting. And what we didn't factor in was YouTube.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Which is a whole, brand new, which basically laid the groundwork in Europe, better than we ever could have imagined. And it was, of the whole European tour, I think every show was great, but doing Beethoven's Last Night in Vienna, the city where Beethoven and Mozart lived,
oh, yeah.
In a sold-out, building, on a street, where they used to walk down, that was magical. And then also, the very last show we did in, just happened to be in London, and as I went on stage, just looked into the audience, and there was the rock from Queen, who everybody worships.
Really?
In the audience. So that was, a nice way to end the European tour. Then we hopped another 8 weeks in America, back in the studio, where we're...
How long does it take you to put together that show, then? Does it take you a couple of years to put the process together?
Again, damn good question. And the problem is not putting it together. The problem is putting it together. We by far have the most complicated, when we call it the Armada show. We send out the full aircraft carrier fleet. Ever since we started touring in '99, we always kept the tickets between 20 and 50. Now they're between 25 and 60. A couple cities only hit 70.
Which is still pretty good. That's not nearly as bad as some other shows.
It's one of the things we've been trying to fight, because when I was growing up in New York City, in the 50s and the 60s, but especially in the 60s when I started to go to concerts at the Garden, when I first saw The Who at Madison Square Garden, tickets were $5. When I saw Led Zeppelin, they were $7.50. I'm like, wow, these are expensive. And
it's not that long ago, really.
Yeah. And the last show I saw at the Garden, the good seats were $3,000, the nosebleed were $300.
Yeah.
And when I'm looking at the show, I'm thinking, where's the money? It's not on the stage. And I had always been so caught up in, making the biggest show possible and keeping the tickets between $25 and $60. The European tour was a huge epiphany for me, just because it just hit me like a ton of bricks that I had been so concerned about keeping the tickets affordable that it had never dawned on me that the ticket price is only half the cost of the concert. At $25 to $60, a dishwasher in Rome can afford tickets for himself, his wife, his kids. But what he can't afford is to take 3 days off of work, fly to London, get a hotel, see the show, and fly back the next day. And prior to 208, we always knew where our fans came from because Ticketmaster has the zip codes. And it was no big deal for people to drive 400 miles or fly in, with whatever. But after the banking crash in 208, we noticed people weren't driving as far. And normally with TSO tours, like we play Florida, let's just say, we play Miami, Tampa, Orlando, gone. And everybody would come to those arenas. But now with the price of gas, with the unemployment problem, we notice that people can't travel as far, can't afford it, etc. And if people can't afford to get to the mountain, it's our job to get them out to the people. So I told William Morris, in 2009, I said, okay, let's just try to change what we've been doing, and let's start to hit secondary and tertiary markets so that no fan has to drive more than 1 or 2 at the most hours to get to the show. In 1950, when Leo Fender invented the amp and Les Paul invented the electric guitar, there was a great schism in music. You either grew up on the Dorsey Brothers and Perry Como pre-electric guitar, or you grew up on Chuck Berry, Elvis Presley post-electric guitar. But by the time we started to tour, it was half a century later. Now it's 62 years later. So unless you're in your late or in your 90s, every generation now has rock in common,
right,
which made it a lot easier for us to jump when you jump any of the silly walls that people put between themselves, be it nationality, economic class, religion, it feels great. But when you're asking, what feels the best about, this whole business, when you jump the generational wall, that really feels great. And, when you see like a 15-year-old kid, a Nickelback t-shirt, sitting next to a guy in a tweed jacket that could be his English professor, sitting next to a guy who's an architect, sitting next to a truck driver, that feels the best. And what I love the most is, when you just see the look on these kids, especially first-timers, when you see the look on these kids' faces, I think when they're expecting just an orchestra and they just see this, rock band just come out and, just take it to a whole other level. But honestly, it's better than the money. Don't tell Warner Brothers that. Definitely don't tell the promoter that. I mean, honestly, we wouldn't charge anything for the tickets except that the trucking company, lighting company, pyro company have this really screwed up mindset that they should be paid.
Well, thank you so much.
Our pleasure.
I will look forward to seeing the